Alright guys, end of day webinar for today. It is Wednesday, April 19th. So yeah, let's just go over all the trades and ideas here together, guys. And I'll basically show you what I was looking at for those of you maybe that missed the stream today, or just sort of, it's a little easier to understand sometimes the thought process after the fact when there's not the emotion of being in the trade as well. So, alright guys, so for SNGX, there was a few positions. I took a couple starters. The first one I took was short around 432, and that was pretty early in the day. It was right around here somewhere. I believe it was right there, actually. Yeah, right there. And it worked out for a little scalp. I took half it off at 416, and then I had to stop at break even, and then it came back, and it was a break even on the second half, basically. Or maybe I think I got out like 2 cents before break even. But here's the thing about that is, even though sure it was a little gain, I think that I was, just to be critical of myself and to sort of help you guys out, I think I had my mind in the gutter there. I was thinking on the wrong side. Even though there was money to be made on a little short there, what I really should have been doing is looking for that long. So again, guys, we talked about this yesterday, and today I'm definitely correcting this little habit I've created over the last few days where I'm trying to be short a little too early. I guess in the back of my head, I'm like, I want to get in, and then I want to see the lower high, add through the VWAP, and I just have this blinding idea of a huge profit. But at the end of the day, look, there's two things that make this really simple to follow. One is, if you look at your 5-minute chart and we're over VWAP or over 9 EMA, then you should just be looking to get long, right? So this 410 hold, although there was a nice little short in there, 432 short, 416 cover, I should have just covered the rest out, turned around and flipped it for a long because it was holding nicely. So pay attention to, in my defense, we haven't really been seeing as many secondary follow-throughs, but this week they're starting to come back in, right? So we got to be aware of it and kind of adjust to that. So the first short right there, covered here, covered flat, but there was definitely no reason to be short after the 39 break. This could have been a nice little long setup. So just going to be critical of myself and be honest. I really think that I should have been long there instead of short, although it worked out for a small scalp. The second trade, this was a frustrating one. I shorted again. So we already had high day put in. So starting to think again, okay, look, we're actually starting to look weak here. I want to get short, nail this big trade. I took a starter position in this one, which was a smaller size, about 1/5 or 1/4-ish. I took it in at 68. Took it in at 68 right there, basically. And it looked like it was going to roll. I was pretty happy about it, and then it popped right back up. It ended up stopping me at 80, which was very frustrating. I had to walk away for a minute. So I had the right idea there, but the wrong timing. And again, I just want to go back to, I don't know if anybody had trouble fighting this one today. If anybody found yourself like getting chopped up, trying to short anywhere up here, I'm going to really simplify this for you. The one and only trade that I should have taken today, although this was a nice little gain, this one was a small loss. The only trade that mattered today, and this is the one I want to go over next, was SNGX short on the VWAP and support break here through basically 435. The stock is still running into the close, towards 368. 350 would have been the final target on this one if I had the patience to hold it through the whole day or to reshort VWAP. But look how stress-free this was once it actually reached the trigger we were looking for. It was actually kind of difficult to get in. I actually had to chase this one a bit. So I got some at like 438, but I also hit a few more orders in there. I really went crazy once it broke support and kind of got in. And then it chopped around a little bit, but ultimately it just stayed weak. It made a nice little wash. We had a good target in mind. At first I was saying 380. Like I mentioned earlier, I realized later that I made an error. It was actually 390 was the target I was looking for, because if you go on a 5-minute chart, 390 was that prior breakout level, and that's always the area that I'm looking or expecting some kind of a bounce. So what you can do is, some people like to hold a full position throughout the day, and if that's the case, then go ahead and cover some into that support, right? So this was resistance. It's going to become short-term support most likely. And then if you're down to just a small size, you might want to add a VWAP and then go for the rest of the fade near the end of the day. I often prefer to cover out completely. And then if I can find a spot to get in later in the day, I might scoop it back in and then go for the rest of the fade, all right? So I'm really happy with the way that trade went. I mean, it was a fantastic trade. The stock was easy to borrow, so everybody was able to participate for the most part. Yeah, there was really just no stress from there. So I want to use this as a reminder to myself and all of us that just waiting for the right timing to get in is so crucial. And you know, guys, like another thing is that if you're really trying too many times too early to short it or trying to pick tops, which I don't try to pick tops anymore. You'll notice that the spots that I get in still have a meaning to them. So in this case, it put in a lower high. It showed resistance. I shorted. I knew it was early, so I covered a partial. Stop at break even. So I'm out flat on the rest. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Notice that I always stick to my stops without question in these trades, because you know that when they break back up, they're going to rip. They're going to tear you in half if you're not careful. So really, those ideas you got to be careful with. They usually start as scalps, and sometimes they end as big trades, but they always start as just a scalp idea or a small trade idea, okay? I do think back here, I should have been thinking long. So I kind of feel like I was thinking a little bit on the wrong side there, even though I had a trigger on the short for a small trade. Ultimately, if you see that VWAP holding and a good consolidation like this, look, when my stop is 435 here, you got to assume that I'm not the only one thinking that, and new buyers are coming in there, and that's why it's spiked up so nicely, right? So when it comes towards my stop, I often stop it a bit early. I'm anticipating. I'm like, look, this is going to break. I know it is. But that was the idea there. And then when we come back over here, on that 35 break, where basically every one of us that could got in there, there was just no stress. It came back, retested VWAP for a second, but there was no real moment of truth where you were kind of challenged by the chart. Just really, it consolidated a lot over 20, and then finally it broke through, and it just really made its way down towards our target pretty easily. So I couldn't really be more happy with that trade, and from what I could tell in chat is a lot of you guys did well with that one, so congrats. I went to lunch today, so I didn't trade the lunchtime chop. Kind of glad to, because it looks like there was a lot of noise in there, but just remember this chart. It's not uncommon to see these types of stocks find support towards my cover area, because usually it's going to be like a key breakout point, resistance that'll become support. And then if it comes back up and hits VWAP, don't be afraid to skip in there with a small size, give it a 10-cent stop, and try to let it ride out for the rest of the day, all right? But it's better off to wait till a little bit later in the afternoon, I think, towards 132, and then if it hits VWAP, rejects it like that, it should be okay. I was kind of thinking that there was a little bit of an unknown element today in this one, where we didn't know what was going to happen with all the ETC buy-ins and covers, so that was a little challenging, but I think at the end of the day, the main thing to remember, guys, is that you don't want to waste all of your mental capital. And do you know what I mean by mental capital? Fighting something like this, when all you need to do is just wait for that key VWAP and support break trigger. Like we had, you can look at this and see that there's nice lower highs. And if you have a wider stop, I know some of you guys were short way earlier and you were totally comfortable with your plan. And that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, dude. Like if you had a plan, you're short, maybe your stop was over 85, you were in there, that's nothing wrong with that at all. You can even add through this trigger here and then really beef up your position and go for a big win. But if you're kind of like finding yourself, oh, this might be the top, short, stop, oh wait, it's here, short, stop, oh wait, no, it's here, short, stop, you're gonna exhaust your mental capital before you have a chance to really nail the trade, okay? And I almost did that today, because that second time where I shorted 68, I think it was in there, yeah, and then it dipped down and it looked like I was going to be right, and I thought I timed it perfect, and then it spun back up, stopped me out for a small loss. Like I stepped, and then it came right back down. I had to step out of the room for a second there. I actually almost lost my cool for a moment. That was really frustrating. Again, the main frustration wasn't actually the small loss that I took. I was actually just concerned. I felt like my best interest always lies in you guys, right? And I thought that I was really frustrated with myself for taking that entry if anyone followed me in and had to stop on it, because I know that it was an early entry and it was risky. And if I want to do something that's a little more risky, that should be my business, and I shouldn't be encouraging anyone else to do that. But sometimes I will come in early and give it a little bit of a wider stop and then add through the trigger. But I was a little bit annoyed at myself for that one, and so yeah, I mean, if that had happened like again, then I might have exhausted all my mental capital. The next thing you know, the real trigger comes, and I'm just like too tired of fighting it to bother. And the next thing you know is that's the real trade, right? So pay attention to conserving that mental capital as you trade. Wait for the right spots to get in. Don't ever take a trade just because I'm taking it, but I really do hope the commentary helps you guys understand the thought process I'm going to using, and hopefully the overall ideas are really helping you guys piece together the puzzle as we go through it. Because with SNGX, we really identified that 435 was the spot. There's a few good reasons. One is it's a major support. Two is VWAP's right there. There's every reason for longs to sell right there. So, and then the next spot we had to watch out for was 410. Strangely, 420 found some support, and then it didn't really have any trouble with 410. So I was kind of interesting there. Anyways, guys, really nice job in SNGX. The second trade I wanted to go over today was CBLI, which this actually could have turned out to be a really nice trade in itself, and it wasn't bad at all. I mean, it was a good trade. I was disappointed that I only got 2 targets out of it, but CBLI, I really sniped this entry, guys. There was, first of all, I was really interested in the long, and if you bring the chart back, you might see why. I mean, if you look at it like this, and you're not actually seeing what happened, I think a lot of people would have been also looking at a long here, right? I mean, this looks like a chart that could potentially be a long. However, I was waiting for a very specific piece of criteria to line up that just didn't line up for me. So I was watching, and I was just, we were just basically looking for a few more bars. Actually, what I was looking for, guys, was either a few more bars of consolidation over 40, or for a dip down like that, and then a reclaim of 40, higher low, and break. So luckily I didn't get involved here. But on this snap, it became so intense, like it broke down so much that it had actually finally broken the 9 EMA on the 5-minute chart, and I'm going to show you here. Right, so it finally had like made that break right there. So I decided that a good way to play this one, or a good potential way to play it, would be to scale in on the bounce, look for that lower high. So basically to scale in to this lower high, assuming it's going to be a lower high. Again, 10-cent stop as always, and kind of look for a 30 to 40 cent reward or more. I mean, this is the kind of trade that you're risking 10 cents. You could lose. If it bounces back up, you could lose a bit of money there, but even if it half works, like I'd say this half worked, it put the lower high, gave us a beautiful cover here, gave us a second cover here. I only got a partial down there, but if this can sometimes turn into like, this is one of those trades that can turn into a $50 risk turns into a $500-600 gain, a $100 risk turns into a $700-800 gain. This is the kind of trade that happens often for, right? So the risk reward makes sense totally. I was happy with the entry. I just scaled right into 29s there on the 30 push, and it started to work almost right away. Covered at 97, sat through the bounce. We moved our stop down. We managed this trade really well. Moved the stop down to 20. Second time down, I was looking for covers at 85 and lower. It didn't quite get there. I started covering some 87s, 89s, and 90s. I didn't even get the full second half out there before I had to start covering at 17. And then I actually covered, sadly, at over 25 to 30 on the last bit. So I kind of, not a great finish in that trade, but overall, still happy with it. Still a nice win, but just kind of an unfortunate finish. And I had a feeling, I even said it. I go, I got a feeling I just got duped into covering the last of my shares there. But I always want to set a good example for people that are learning. You have to stick to your stops. I only call an audible when I see something that really changes my mind. For example, if if this started to really hold 510 over under, which it did right here, and then starts to turn back up, well, I know I got to get out there, right? You can't be that stubborn, but Just to be clear, guys, when it comes to shorting stuff like CBLI, shorting SNGX, you really have to make a habit of having that trade plan and really sticking to it. So you can see what kind of mess we would have been in if I hadn't covered SNGX and my planned stop on the first trade. So 32 short, covered 16. If I didn't cover my planned stop, I would have been hugely in trouble here on this trade. So it's always I always stick to my stops. It's the only way to trade, guys. And then lower highs, big trigger at 35, nice wins. CBLI, very nice trade, even though it didn't end as a home run. It was still a great one. Congratulations to those of you who had GNC. I took a long on GNC. I didn't go big on it or anything. Like I said, guys, I wasn't crazy about it, and I'll tell you why. Wasn't up over 5% in the day. Wasn't really in play today. I wasn't expecting much out of it, so I went like 1,000 shares. I didn't go big on it. Just went 1,000 shares on it, and I went in at 38 just to see what it could do for us. It got up to 41. No volume came in. I said, you know what? Screw this. Covered it flat. Sometimes you just know when a trade's not going to work. If it's going to work, you're going to want to see volume coming in heavy, at least a decent increase in volume. We're going to want to see a higher low over 40, which never came. If it had held the higher low over 40, we would have looked for the 45 break and went from there. So easy to bail on that one. It was worth a shot, but I got a rule. It's 5% on the day and over VWAP. The reason for that is just because they tend to work a lot better when they're on people's screens. And the stocks that end up in people's screens are the ones at the top of the scanner. So those were the two main trades today. I didn't scalp around much other than that. Actually, I stayed pretty patient and disciplined otherwise. Vexlo was asking me about ARGS. The reason I didn't trade this one today was simply because I was focused on other tickers. CBLI was on my radar. SNGX was on my radar. And when I put a lot of focus into the symbols, good things happen. I know exactly where the price action cues are. I know where to get short, where to get long. I got great ideas where to cover. Sometimes trying to watch too many tickers at once can really hinder your performance. So I try to focus on three main tickers. And although I think ARGS looks like a really interesting short here, I didn't see anyone mention it in chat, and it just never really hit my radar today. But just looking at it in hindsight here, okay, so pre-market kind of dumped, ripped off the open. 70 looked like some resistance, and then it kind of broke into red. That actually looked like a good spot to short right there into the red break with a stop at 70. So that would have been an all right 7-cent risk trade right there. But it only really gave, it didn't really give a huge amount of reward. Anyways, thanks for bringing that up. If you have a ticker, just post it in the chat, and I'm always happy to take a look at it for you. Even if I don't trade it, I can give you a quick analysis of what I see in it. So that's it, guys. I'll have this webinar posted up for you in chat after the gym tonight. It's still sunny outside, so I'm going to get out and get some fresh air, guys. I'm really happy with how the day went. You guys have been awesome in chat. Congratulations on all the great trades. Nice work today, Trade Addict. And guys, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We got CBLI, possibly SNGX, depending on how it goes. Hopefully some gappers in the morning. SKLN will be on watch. All right, guys, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow morning.